Going live. Ok, acho que estamos ao vivo. Twitch chat não existe.
Deixa eu abrir o YouTube aqui.
Vamos checar se está ao vivo.
Aqui, ao vivo.
Estamos ao vivo.
Deixa eu clicar.
Dei tchau. Quanto tempo aparece aí?
Peraí que tá abrindo aqui.
Vamos ver o delay. 12 horas de delay. Eu queria fazer uma capturinha.
Aí tá aparecendo aqui você agora.
Display capture.
Apareceu o tchau aqui agora.
Um tchauzinho. Não era window capture que eu quero, mas será que eu posso fazer um window capture só? A gente só consegue fazer window se tiver vídeo, né? Deixa eu ativar minha câmera fake aqui. Aí eu faço a câmera popopá. Aí eu desativo minha câmera. Aí sua cabeçona aparece. Pera. Risos. É isso. Aí compartilha a window. Discord. Isso. Mas eu queria fazer um... Apareceu o Discord aí? Apareceu, né?
Vamos esperar o delay aqui.
Você viu quanto tempo tá de delay já ou não?
Eu vi que demorou bastante. Dá um tchau aí de novo. Apareceu agora o Discord.
Então deve estar bom. Uns 30 segundos, 1 minuto de delay tá bom.
YouTube, né?
É mais minha internet que cagou. 60, 70, 80. Boa. Right. 90. 5.
Não sei se você deu um tchau de novo, mas você mexeu a mão aqui agora.
Não. Então foi a vez que você mandou dar tchau.
Então é isso.
Então tá vendo quanto tempo leva. 60. 62. Pronto, e agora não tem você exatamente, mas tem pelo menos quando você falar, dá pra ver. Não é o ideal porque seria legal se pudesse mostrar sua cara maior, né?
Sim. Então na próxima eu faço. Eu fico num lugar que eu consiga ligar a câmera.
E aí a gente arruma, né?
E aí faz na negócio. Eu não
Bom,
achei que eu ia ligar a câmera, senão eu tinha preparado melhor.
não, sem estresse. Eu só pensei nisso agora também. Como você bem sabe, eu não planejei muito bem. Beleza, sua cabeçona apareceu ali. Digo, sua cabeça de tamanho normal.
Tá pequena ali, cara.
Pronto. Assim, não dá pra saber exatamente o que está acontecendo, porque tem uma pessoa ali. Mas, fala aí.
Salve.
Apareceu verde. Então, tá funcionando. Bom. Bem-vindo ao primeiro... Rushing... agora a gente muda pra inglês, né? Verdade. Okay, fine. Let's finally start this. Moving to English then. My bitrate is less than recommended because OBS is... well, actually not OBS. My internet is doing something strange. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the idea here is that we're going to learn Python. I know a lot of Python. although I don't have a lot of practice on it, and I'm going to teach everything that I know to my brother Igor. Is down here. This person.
Are you showing your screen?
Yeah, I'm showing GX corner here, right? You can see it.
In Discord for me,
No, not in Discord. No. Okay, let me try to wait. I can't move a lot. Let me try to share my screen to you, so you don't need to watch the thing. This one, screen one. Yeah. You should be watching the same screen that I'm broadcasting. Okay, so the basic idea, let's just do one thing first. We have, if you search for Python install, the first thing that appears is download Python from the thing, the main Python place. And that should be enough to get us started. So let's download Python. Igor, if you need more time for anything, let me know. If you need to stop or whatever. So Python save, run. By the way, I haven't installed Python on Windows in a while, but I probably have Python on Windows. Install now on whatever this place is. So whatever I can zoom, I'm gonna zoom in, but some things I can't because I'm using a 4K screen. New to Python, start with online tutorial and documentation. Nah, that's fine. Oh, disable path length limit. Change your machine configuration to allow programs, including Python, to bypass the 260 character. Yeah, let's do this. I don't know why this is here, but I'm gonna allow this app to make modification, and setup is done. I'm gonna close now. So this is just Python. So we're gonna test if Python is working. I don't normally use Windows, so this is why it's fun for me. So if you search for Python in your Windows, you will see Python 12. So let's see what happens when you click Python 12. And this screen appeared to me. Okay. Igor, do you have this?
Yes.
Great. So here we should be able to just say 2 + 3, enter, and it should work. And let me figure out how to zoom this. I must share my whole live. Ctrl+ works. Okay, so for now, let's just have this open so we can talk about the basics of Python. Probably full screen this. F11 works? Works. Okay, so we are in the black screen of the terminal of Python, just to discuss a few of the basic stuff about Python. So Python is an interpreted language in comparison to other languages such as C, Fortran, which means that when you write something, it works because in the background of Python, there is something interpreting all the commands and running them for me. So I don't have to stop and compile the code, so it works. So 2 + 3 just worked. If you say 3 × 4, it works. If you want to do a power, so 3 to the power of 3, 27, 91 divided by 5, it works. I think integer division might be back 2 backslashes. So this is integer division, so it's like dividing as if it were integer numbers and ignoring the remainder, right? So you can do 12 divided by 5, 14 divided by 5, but if you go to 15, it's 3, okay? So it's essentially ignoring this decimal part. It doesn't work for the math operation, like if you want to compute a square root right now, it doesn't work, or exponential doesn't work. for those things to work, you have to import packages. And that's another thing that Python has. A lot of the things in Python are inside packages. Some of those packages are available by default. And to access the package, you just say import. So for instance, import math. Math is the name of the package, so you can say math.exponential of 2, and this is e to the power of 2, and this is correct. Math.square root of 4, 2, and it just works. Okay? So basic operations, they just work. If you want to do things with strings, so if you want to say words, you can use either single or double ticks and just write whatever you want. So, hi, welcome to Rushing Python with Abel and Igor. Right? And it's the same with single ticks. So if you just use, if you just use single ticks, it works as well. So Python doesn't have a differentiation. What else can I say that is very basic? I also consider lists or arrays to be very basic. So let's say you want to make a list of numbers. You can just use brackets. So numbers 3 to 7. And this is a list, L. To access the numbers, you use the brackets as well. So you say L brackets 0. This is the first element. And Python starts counting at 0, like C does, and possibly other languages, JavaScript as well. Igor, you work with Flutter. Do you know how Flutter works with arrays? Does it start at 0?
Sorry, I didn't understand. How Flutter works in what?
Does Flutter starts at 0 for arrays? Or
yes.
You don't? Okay,
yes.
So pretty much the same thing. We're gonna go over how to create arrays in a better way, how to loop, etc. Basic things right now. The other thing that I think it's kind of basic, but it's not really basic, is maps or dictionaries. So you have the braces or the squiggly braces, if you're into giving a full name to things, and you just say key, column, value. So like I'm gonna create a dictionary to say the score of people. So Abel is 10, Igor is 11. Right, so this is a dictionary. I'm gonna call it D. So if you say D of Abel is 10 and D of Igor 11. Okay, so this is all basic Python stuff. Oh, and by the way, I'm seeing Elias joined our chat. Yes, 6 a.m. in Brazil right now. How are you doing, Elias? Elias is another true follower waking up at 6 a.m. Hope you're doing fine, Elias. Welcome to the stream. Let me... Oh, I can also zoom in my chat screen so I won't lose these messages. Hopefully won't lose them. Oh, and I can use... Wow. Oops. I did a bad thing. I was gonna try to do something and it failed. So never mind. Nothing happened. Okay, so these are the basic things.
Hey, Abel.
Yeah.
You forget to put hello world.
Yeah, I have to say hello world. So you can say hello world like this. Okay.
Yeah.
So what else? What else is very basic for you, Igor? Do you have anything that you want to ask? How to do very basic?
Well, not now.
Okay, so
I think that is okay for now.
So let's move to more fun stuff. Well, let's jump into functions straight away. So the function, well, actually, before we jump into that, I think now that we know that Python is very simple, let's use something a little bit more beautiful than just this black screen. Okay, so I'm gonna move out of that. So as you saw, we installed Python, but now I want to install some packages in Python, and there are a few ways to do that. Unfortunately, Python has a bunch of different things that you can use to install packages. We're going to use one of the largest ones, which is Anaconda. And there are reasons to like, and by the way, Anaconda is the name of a snake, but the first match is the Python thing. So you see that it's like really, really, really well known. Anaconda, I have some issues with Anaconda, so I normally don't use it. I'm not going to go into why, but the main reason is this part here, pricing, right? So this is the main reason, but we're going to just do a free download. So you can click on free download, and you can click download. It's been many years since I downloaded Anaconda. Well, maybe I downloaded last year to make a video. So it's downloading Anaconda here, 1 GB. Sorry, Igor, do you have fast internet there?
Yeah, it is in 95, finished.
It's faster than mine. Okay, so is it over? Please say complete so I can click it. That's done. Now I'm gonna install Anaconda. I might have Anaconda already, so maybe we'll pick up that I don't have to install everything. Maybe it doesn't. So I'm agreeing to the license. It's just for me. It's in some place. And I'm gonna create start menu. Sure. Register Anaconda 3 as my default Python 3.11. Why is it? Anyway. Recommend allows other programs such as VS Code, etc. to automatically detect Anaconda 3 as a primary Python 3.11 on the system. I actually don't know if I want this, but I will leave it that way because I imagine that's what people will do normally on their first install. So I'm just gonna leave it. And now it's installing Anaconda. So I use normally Python in Linux. So I use Linux for everything except gaming. So on Linux is a vastly different experience. And when we actually get to the hardcore programming, we're gonna move to Linux. Also, if you are on a more recent Windows, you'll have access to the Windows, to the Linux subsystem inside Windows, which is the WSL. Do you have WSL on your Windows, Igor?
Let me confirm.
I think if you, WSL, yeah, that's it, which is some kind of Windows. It needs some configuration, but anyway. We're still extracting with Anaconda. Why not? Oh, no, it's just my imagination. Well, anyway, so the idea here is that we're going to be using 2 things, maybe 3, to program. The first one is the Jupyter notebook or Jupyter notebook, depending on where you're speaking from. And the notebook is how most people do data science. It's also very good to create classes and to show codes on the screen so people can repeat the codes. So that's why we're going to use it. And the second way that we're going to use Python is VS Code. There are other options like PyCharm, but as I mentioned, I like to be a little bit more hardcore on the coding aspects. So using VS Code will be a bit more fun. So Anaconda is here. We're going to press next, next. Launch Anaconda Navigator. Sure, let's go there. I don't care about this. Anaconda eating all my resources. There is also something called Miniconda, which I prefer, by the way. Miniconda here. Actually, let me go back to this. So you have some installers with Anaconda, but like I said, the main way to use Python has been Anaconda for a while. Okay, yes, Elias also doesn't like Anaconda. Yeah, it's not fun. You have all of these. It's essentially advertising Anaconda as a product. Don't like it, Anaconda. But anyway. We are at the Anaconda Navigator. So the nice thing about Anaconda is that it provides an easy way for you to install and run things. So we are going to avoid Anaconda for a long time, except when we actually want to use notebooks. And the classic notebook is this Jupyter notebook here. It's a web-based interactive computing notebook environment, blah, blah, blah. But what we're going to use is the Jupyter Lab, which is a new version of the notebook. It looks better and it has the notebooks as well. We're going to launch that. Go ahead and launch the Jupyter Lab app, whatever it's called.
I am finishing installing Anaconda yet.
Okay. So I'm going to wait for you to tell me that this is your screen. Also, it's a good time for me to go to the bathroom.
My internet is fast, but my laptop isn't.
We're back. Everything done?
Well, not yet. Oh my god.
That's the old computers.
Isn't that old, but isn't that good too? It's a i5 core
Yeah.
and 8 gig RAM.
8 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah.
Old enough to.
Yeah.
I think the RAM is probably killing it.
And I use that. This is my work PC. It's better than mine.
No such thing as a work PC. Never heard of it. Don't know what you're talking about.
Is the laptop that I got from work.
I know.
My
don't. Don't put yourself on those situations. Okay, my bitrate is still very low, but that's fine. Anything? Not yet.
You can go on. I will wait here. If I need, I get the video on YouTube.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. So the basic idea here is that you have on the lab access to a lot of stuff that people were complaining, essentially. Like, it was harder to access all of these things if you were mixing notebooks and installing packages all together. So now everything is available in a single place. So if you want to just open Notebook, you click here. If you want to just get the console, which is kind of like what we saw. So if you click here in the console, we are kind of back to that screen, like 2 plus 3 works, except that this is the IPy kernel. So it shows the output of what you have used, and you can go back. And well, it's a lot of fun. Click here, but you also have access to the terminal and other things. Like, this probably doesn't work on Windows, I imagine. I would venture that's why it wasn't working. But you have access to the terminal, at least on Windows and on Linux and Mac probably, so you can install things from there. Elias said that he also haven't used Jupyter Lab in a long time, and not much has changed, and I feel the same way. I guess the idea is that if you change the interface a lot, people will get confused, and that's bad for business. So, notebooks. This is the notebook. Essentially, the notebook is composed of cells, and these cells is where you write your code. So when you write 2 plus 3 here, you can press play here. Play, run the selected cell. Yes, you can press play here. You can go back here. You can press Control Enter, so you run just that cell, or you can press Shift Enter, and it runs and it moves to the next cell. It's a little bit different from the Jupyter notebook itself, but the basic idea is that one. And here we can do exactly the same as we did before. So 3 to the power of 5, and import math.square root of 9. It just works. Okay, so it's exactly the same. There are some things to be aware here. This is important. We're going to come back to this eventually. We're going to have errors because of this. And that's one of the reasons that notebooks are complicated. You see the numbers 3, 4, 5, 6. The numbers 1 and 2 are gone. But since I executed these notebooks, those things were executed. So if I run a code that creates a variable and I delete the cell, the variable still exists. So that's the one of the issues with the notebook, this kind of notebook, which is you always have some some old stuff in memory, right? So it can happen, and that's bad. But yeah, patience. That's what you have. So that's what we're gonna do. So let's actually start coding. All of the things that we're gonna do here, you can do on the terminal that we were on, except that now it's nicer and easier to move around. The other things in Jupyter Lab that you have here is that you can navigate on your screens, and you can check the running terminals, etc., and table of contents, an extension. I never use an extension, so I don't know what they do. And I haven't used this table of content, but it's a nice feature to have. Yeah, maybe I can show this. Oh, so you can add things on top of existing cells in these buttons, and you can change one of these notebook cells to be a different kind, like a markdown. And a markdown is something that allows you to say, hey, rushing Python. In this notebook, we rush learning Python. And I probably should not be extending that much. But the idea is that you can create some kind of reports, or in my case, classes, lectures, etc. We don't want to do that here, so we don't need all of that information. Okay? Stop here anytime that you don't understand anything, because we are essentially going to start rushing now. Okay? So let's learn up. Great, thank you. So let's learn about functions. So the first thing, if you want to create a function in Python, you use def. And def for define is define the name of the function that you want. So function potato, and then you have parentheses and the arguments of the functions that we're gonna say nothing so far. Probably zoom it a bit more. And let me see if I can make it a simple interface. Yeah, looks nice. And I have to use a column, right? The 2 dots. I have to use it to define a function and a bunch of other stuff in Python. You have to use the 2 dots. And then when you press enter, this editor automatically knows that you are inside a function. So it automatically added these 4 spaces. And Python needs the 4 spaces. Python is indentation. It requires strict indentation. So if you try to do something with bad indentation, it doesn't work, right? So you need those 4 spaces. So define potato. Inside this function, you can do whatever you want. And at the end of the function, you return something. So return hello world, of course. We have to do that. Shift enter. Now I can call potato. Okay, that's just a function. So I will, in these classes, in this Rush in Python, assume that you know a bit about programming, so I don't want to explain what a function is. Anything like that, we're gonna rush. And Igor already programs, so he knows about functions as well. But if there's anything that you want to ask, Igor, feel free to ask.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume that you know a bunch of stuff, so feel free to stop me. So that's function. Let's create another function, the traditional factorial function. So the factorial function, let's do it in a few ways. So factorial with if and recursion. That's a great name for a function. So the first thing, what is the factorial in mathematical terms? So I'm gonna change this to be a markdown thing. So a factorial is n equals n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 times 1. So this is the definition of the factorial. We want to compute a product that goes all the way to 1, decreasing 1 each time, right? So if you have 4 factorial, you want to compute 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay, that's what we want to do. By the way, hashtags are comments on Python and many other languages. So we're going to define factorial with if and a recursion. So to do that, we're going to... Yep. Did you say something?
No, I didn't.
So what we're going to do is say, hey, if n is... Let's start by making some bad things. So if n is less than 0, so the first thing we're going to learn now is if. So if, you have to say the condition and then a column. So if n is less than 0, we're going to create an error. Maybe I should not start using this, but since we are doing a more real stuff, let's do this. So raise exception. No. And let's just end here. I forgot you don't need to end things, and return 0. So a few things here. If conditional, right? So again, you have to end with a column. The indentation is necessary. Raise exception, and I think this works because I forgot how to do exception. So with a 3, it just returns 0. With a negative 3, it raises an exception. There's an error here. And this is how we make things stop working in Python. You raise exceptions. So the people calling this function, they are doing a bad thing, essentially, right? Let's not try to explain the idea a lot, but that's the main thing. If n is less than 0, there is no definition for recursion. We are gonna do a else if, elif. I had to try because I forgot. Otherwise, if n is 0 and 1, the factorial is 1. So this is maybe a strange thing, but the factorial of 0 is 1, and of course the factorial of 1 is just 1. Why is the factorial of 0 1? Because math does a thing. Don't worry about that. It just is. So if the n is equal to 0, so you have to use, of course, double equals for conditionals, or n is equal to 1. So this is how Python does or, is a word. Then we're going to return 1. So this is the basic idea. So if none of these things happened, we are going to compute the product of n times the factorial with even recursion of n minus 1. Okay? So the idea being, if I say 4 factorial, it is not negative, it's not 0, nor 1. So it's going to be 4 times the factorial of 3. The factorial of 3 doesn't happen here, so it's 3 times factorial of 2. Same thing, factorial of 1. And the factorial of 1 will end here. If I directly call factorial of 0, it also works with this condition. Right, so this should work for the factorial of 3, which is 6, and the factorial of 4. Okay? So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Great. So this also reminds me of the list of things that I should have written somewhere that we're going to go over. First one is functions. We are doing that. Conditionals. If I wanted, I could say else and do this here. This is a bad practice, or not in this case because it's just a simple line, but if you had a lot of things in here, everything can just be outside of the else. You use the conditionals to exit early, right? First, you check things that will make you exit early, and everything else, it's the rest of the function. But yeah, we don't have to worry a lot about that. Oh, I pressed the save button. I'm not going to save anything. Cool, so factorial with 15, it's, again, I pressed the Control Save button because of the Julia Pluto notebook that I use. 15 is this huge number, which I guess it's fine. We don't check it. Questions?
Not anyone now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you want to say nothing so far, or
Yeah.
none at the moment? I'm testing your English. Okay. Work.
Okay.
Let's move on. Let's create a new function. Let's do another factorial version. Factorial with 4n. So same idea. If I call the factorial with one of these, I could end early, but that's going to be a little bit different this time. Instead of computing the factorial using recursion, I'm going to say I have a value p, which is the product. By the way, I could say the factorial value if we want to be very explicit, but anyway, I'm just going to say factorial maybe. It will start with an n, and then I'm going to loop over, actually I'm going to loop in an easy way. I'm going to loop over all the numbers from 1 to n, and for that I'm going to say 4. And to do 4, I do 4 k in, and I use something here, which I believe in Python is the range 0n. And the factorial is equal to the factorial times k plus 1. So first thing, range 0, 1 gives you 0, 1, and minus 1. Right? It doesn't include n. Why? Because that's how Python does things. It has to be consistent with the starting at 0, so it looks like this. Don't worry too much about that. Since we are starting at 0, I'm ending at k plus 1. I'm using k plus 1. I could alternatively start at 1 and end at n plus 1 here, but I don't want to. And also, I don't need to go through 0. And by the way, I don't need to go through the first one because I'm already using factorial equals 1. So I can start already at 1, which will say factorial times 2. And this will give me the value of factorial. And so factorial with a 4 of 3 is 6, and with a 4, 24, and etc. Okay? So one interesting thing here is that I actually don't need this check anymore, because if n is 0, so let's remove this and say why I don't need it. So if n is 0, I will say factorial is equal to 1, and for k in the range of 1 to 0, and this range becomes empty, so this 4 doesn't happen. And same thing for 1. I will say range 1, 1. This range is empty, so this 4 doesn't run. So here is factorial with 0 and 1. Okay? So far, okay. Great. Amazing. 4 looks good. If, also nice. So let's do a 4 outside, so we can say 4 and in range 0, 20. I'm gonna print this. So to print, there are actually a lot of ways to print things in Python. The current one that I think it's nice to use is to use f strings. And you say f, and then you put the things inside the f. And I'm gonna say, I want to say n factorial equals to the value, right? So the n, I use the brackets, and I put n inside. And the value, I use braces, and I put factorial with 4n inside. And everything inside the squiggly braces gets executed and transformed into the string. So this should work, but it doesn't because I forgot to close. So the factorial of all these numbers are available here. Okay? So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Great. So first exercise that I want you to write down to do later. And sorry, not here. First exercise, I have to shift enter, which is better. The first exercise would be, I forgot, I have to disable some extensions to navigate this. First exercise, create a function that receives a number n and prints a triangle of asterisks like the following. So I will say triangle of 4. So in triangle 4 out, it will print this. Okay. This is exercise number 1. Exercise number 2, create a function that receives a number n and a string or a char x and writes a triangle like the following. It's not likes, like the following. And it will be a bit more like other triangle of 4, and then you put something here like x, and maybe x. This x is not the same as this x. This is just a name. Let's use O. And I want to write something like O. I actually did one more than I needed. Good. So this one has 1, this 3, 5, and 7. So they should all look nice. Great. So these are first exercises for you. So you have something to do when I'm not here. This first triangle, just basic testing. This one is a bit more interesting. Notice that these all should be this thing here. Okay?
Okay.
We're gonna go over these problems later at a future stage. For now, we have learned about the basics. You want to ask anything?
Well, is that will be for today or for the next class?
I think we can do it during the week, but it's not for today.
Okay.
Not for today. Okay, great.
Great.
We have learned about the basics of the force, the function, force, conditionals. Now let's move a little bit more. So there are a bit of other types in Julia. So in Python, we saw a bunch of basic types. There is also the Boolean type for true and false. So true with a capital T. And you have false, same thing. You have tuples. So if you have 2, 3, this is a tuple. It's a bit different from a list because you can't do a lot of math with this. I'm not going to go into details. As I said before, you have the list, but the list is actually much more loose in what you can do with it. So you can say A, 1, true, and another list inside. And this will work, right? So it has everything inside the list. And you can say for X in now, and you say print X. Okay, so for X, by the way, the idea of the for is that you can loop on a bunch of stuff. Doesn't have to be ranges. And the bunch of stuff are called iterables. Anything that is iterable, you can loop. Okay, so you can loop on any iterable. This will be relevant in the future. Great. So with this, you can do a bunch of cool stuff. For instance, you can loop on a list, and then you update something here, and then you re-loop on that list. I don't think we're going to go over anything like that. The last thing I think we need to talk about is while, and while is pretty much the same idea of f. And to show the while, I'm going to do some other cool stuff, which is... this doesn't work, which is computing the square root of a number. So to compute the square root of a number, I have to do some math to remember what I want to say. So the basic idea of computing a square root of a number, since we're here, I can teach you about math a little bit, is that you have this function, f of x equals x squared minus a, and you want to find where this x makes the function becomes 0. So you want a root finding or zero finding algorithm to find x such that f of x is 0. Okay, so that's the basic idea. And the most basic algorithm for that, which is also one of the best ones, is to do thus computation here, which is called the Newton method. xk equals xk minus this math here. So we're not going to do that explicitly, we're going to do it by hand. And the idea is that you have xk plus 1. So let's just define this as phi of xk. And phi of x is x minus the function, which is x squared minus a, the derivative, which is 2x, and this becomes 2x squared minus x squared minus a, and this becomes 2x squared plus a over 2x, which is what I wanted to find out all along, which is half of x squared divided by x, which is x plus a over x. And I forgot to use a big square brackets at the end. And this is the iteration that we're going to make. This x plus a over x, and then divide that by 2. So it's the average between a number x and a number a over x, which is an interesting way to think about that. So the Babylonians, I think, found out this a long time ago, which we don't care about. So we're going to find the square root. Let's write in square root of a number. I don't think I have to write of a number. So to find the square root of a number, we're going to iterate over this. So let's just show what will happen if we do this. So we have a number like a equals 4. And we're going to do the following math. X is equal to x. X plus a over x divided by 2. We have not defined x yet, so let's start with x equals 1. And here I'm just going to print x at the end. So if I run this once, I get 2.5. If I run this again, I get 2.05. If I run this again, I get 2.0006. If I run this again, I get a bunch of zeros, 9. So it goes very quickly to the square root of this number. Okay? If I do this with 2, I'm not going to show two things, x and x squared. Oh, sorry. Squared. I again forgot this is not Julia. Control enter again. Control enter again. What am I doing wrong? Did I do math wrong, which is also possible? Why is it not working? If I do 5, it works. But if I do 2, it doesn't work. Oh, it works now. I don't know what happened before, but it works now. So, oh yeah, probably one of those things. I haven't executed the cell, so nothing changed. So, as I mentioned before, those things happen. So, let's run this one. So, the first iteration of this method will give 1.5. Next, we'll give 1.41, 1.414, and etc. And you can see that x is getting close to this 1.41 value, and x squared is getting close to 2. Okay, so how are we going to execute this? We're going to loop until this value is close enough to this value. And so we also need this thing, which is called the error of a, and we're going to compute math.abs, fabs. So fabs, I don't remember, f I guess is for float, and then they still use this notation, but abs is absolute value, which is, if it's positive, it remains positive, but if it's negative, we use the opposite value. So let's run this, and then you have it. The first value is x, and the third and fourth value are the errors and the absolute error. And then you can see that these last two values, they become small and small and small. So the first one is negative 4. This e minus 16 is 10 to the minus 16, which is very small, and this other one is just the absolute value of that. So the method that we're going to say is, well, first we're going to check if a is negative. So if a is less than 0, raise an exception. Square root is only defined for real values. Sorry, for positive, no negative values. We are only using the real values, so we're not going to do any complex math. And for that, we are going to use a while. So while, we're going to start at 1. So while the square root, while the square of x minus a is large, so we could say like is larger than 0.1, 0.0001, we're going to use 1e minus 6, which is 0.000001, or a few zeros, 6 zeros. So while this difference is not close enough to 0, we can do the math in this way. We can say x is x plus a over x divided by 2, and that's it. We just return x at the end. Okay? This doesn't look very easy to understand. Of course, as I said in the past, I was a professor in scientific computing, so this is pretty trivial for me, but it's of course not very readable, so you can make those things a bit more readable. So let's make them a bit more readable so we get a bit of the idea of how to make things better. Oh, sorry. The first thing that I'm gonna say is maybe I could change the name of this to solution or to root. So you can say root in every place here. Okay, you could change the name of A to input value or something like that, but I'm gonna leave as A. The second thing that we can make to make our life a little bit nicer is to say error value, and the error value would be this. So while the error value is larger than that, but then you also have to recompute the error value outside of the or inside the loop, I mean. And if you want, you can also say is small enough, and then you can say error value less than or equal to 10 to the minus 6, and you can say while not small enough. And by the way, I'm gonna change the name to say while not small enough, so I can actually write it in English. Okay, Igor, is this better?
Yeah, it's okay.
Good.
And just forgot the word.
So you
I
can
just
say,
writing it.
you can say in Portuguese if you want, and I can help you translate those things. Completely fine.
Okay, I am writing.
Okay.
Take my notes.
Okay, sure. Okay, so this is the square root. If I made no mistakes, this should work. Square root of 2. It failed, of course. So, oh yeah, FABS doesn't exist. Have to use math.fabs. You could also import, but we're not going to do that now. So it just worked. Square root of 2 is this beautiful number here. And I'm going to compute just so we can see x squared. And you can check that this number is the value, and this is the square of x, so we can see if it is close enough to 3 or not. Great. So this is a while, and a bit of good practices on naming. When you name things, you want to be a bit more descriptive, especially when you are outside of mathematics. Inside mathematics, using the mathematical description of things, which is x, is good enough. But for people from the outside, they don't like it. So anyway. Cool. Let's do a bit more on this example, because now I'm going to talk about the other things that can happen inside a function. The first thing is, this is an argument, so I'm going to write something here to say that this, well, first, how do I get the help of a function in Python? I guess I can just say, I'm thinking, so computes the square root of a non-negative number a. Okay, so this is a documentation for the function, right? You can leave an extra space here or not. These are just strings, so when you use triple quotes, it becomes a multi-line string. And this is just say, hey, I'm gonna compute the square root of a non-negative number. Nothing changes, but if you ask for the help of square root, it should show what it does, right? So compute the square root of a non-negative number a. It just works, it's available, so we can now check what is going on there. Let me just check the integrity of the transmission, if it's still good. Apparently, yeah. So help is there. I'm gonna use the help to explain to you and the users what we're going to be doing. So I'm gonna say arguments. Why am I using double asterisks? This is markdown. Do you know markdown? Well, markdown doesn't work for Python apparently. So never mind what I said. Ignore markdown for now. So arguments. The first argument that we have, and the only one right now, is the input value. Okay, so now we're going to add some optional arguments. So one of the optional arguments that we can give is the ATO. ATO, or let's be explicit, absolute tolerance. The absolute tolerance is this 10 to the minus 6, which is how much we are allowing it to be wrong. Okay, so the absolute tolerance is optional, and to say that it's optional, you can say 10 to the minus 6. You just use this equal, and then it automatically will be 10 to the minus 6 if you don't say what it is. So absolute tolerance, and you can say, for instance, default 10 to the minus 6. The allowed error in absolute. Okay, so again, we can check the help. The help is still there, but we can still compute the function, same thing, but you can change the absolute error. In this case, the absolute error is not making, well, it's not making a difference because I haven't used the absolute error anywhere yet. That makes sense. So now if I just, why didn't it change? No. Okay, why isn't it changing? So
I was going
yeah,
to ask you that I run the function
yeah.
with the 4 and with the 9, and both had returned me 1.5.
So if you change here, it's still okay. So it's still broken. So did I change? Is it because I'm redefining the function? No, because down here it's accepting me to redefine the function. So
I have
returning x. So this, oh my, this is another thing that Python does, and it's one of the reasons to not use notebooks for most things, or to make sure to re-execute everything. So I'm gonna show my debugging process, and the debugging process would help. So first thing, this is failing. Oh my god, why is it failing? So you just change to 5, not working. So first thing that you're gonna do is let's kill the notebook, so you can interrupt the kernel. I guess you can just use this to restart the kernel. You can restart the kernel, restart. And the kernel is the thing running these commands. I restarted, then I'm gonna run run all cells here. I run everything again, and it still fails because of, oh my god, Python, why you do this? And it still failed because X is defined here. So the error, and we are only figuring out the error because we noticed this, is I'm returning X because I forgot to change the name root to X. And this is one of the bad things that Python allows you to do, which is if you define the things outside and you can use them inside a function. Okay? This is fine in some contexts, but inside the Jupyter notebook, it should not be happening, but that's what happened. It's fine. It's mostly because we haven't realized this was the case. Okay, so there is no easy way to delete these things from memory or to ensuring that it doesn't happen. Part of the user experience. So far, understood the problem?
Yep.
Okay. So now we run this. It should work now. And now you have this 1.0, which is the error allowed. And if you say 1 minus 3, it's better. If you say 1 minus 6, it's better. If you say 1 minus 12, it's still pretty much the same. 1 minus 14, it works. If I use 0 here, it will break. Why? Because of imprecisions, that's what all I'm going to say, it never becomes 0. The square root of the number will never be exactly true because the computer uses a limited amount of space to store numbers, so it will never be 0. So we want to make sure that if you do this, it will still works. So we're going to do some maximum iteration arguments. And for that, I can say maximum iterations equals to 100. Let's say only 100 iterations. So I'm gonna create the iter. Iter is a kind of existing number, so iteration equals 0. And here I'm gonna say iteration equals iteration plus 1. And if iteration is larger than maximum iter, then I'm gonna break, and breaking will make sure that I exit this loop. Okay, so let's say I run this and I want now 0, and by the way, I'm gonna return root and iteration so I can check. X, k, and x squared. Cannot unpack non-iterable float object. I forgot to run that. Yeah, I forgot to run that. It's not k, it's iteration. Yeah, I normally forget to run these things because I use Julia Pluto notebook, and whenever you save or run something else, it runs everything. So make sure that doesn't happen. So that's why I'm not used to this. So X, Igor, can you mute because of the dog?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So when you say X iteration, you're getting these two outputs here. And you say X iteration X squared. And then you can just say, and up here you say the maximum iteration is 100. So we're gonna check this by using 0. And when you say I want an error of 0, it's impossible to get there. So it makes 101 iterations to get to this point, right? So that's the idea of the iterations. Let's say I want to say maximum iteration is 10. So I could just say 10 here. Good. So I am going to update this to say maximum iter default 100, the maximum number of iterations. Oh, cancel. Running this, it works. Okay. And the help's updated. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Now for the fun part. What you can do in addition to this, this I think is my VS code, my Vim commands don't allow me to use some things. But that's good, it forces me to use the mouse. So one thing that you can do is, let's say that you want to use the default value for the error, but you don't want to say that, you just say use the default, but you want to change the maximum iteration. So what you can do is say maximum iter equals 10. And that works. So you don't have to change all of the parameters. in order. But if you don't give the name, you have to give them in order. Does that make sense? Reminder that you are muted.
Yeah, it's okay.
So the basic idea here is when you want to give the third parameter a value, but not the second, so you use the full name. So this is like a keyword argument, not just an optional argument. It's a keyword argument that you can change. But if you don't want, you give them in order and it works. And that's the other very important thing about functions in Python. Most functions will have some kind of argument, default argument, and you will be using a lot of these arguments when writing code. Okay? This is very common, so get used to doing that.
Okay.
Fine. Well, this is the first part of what we wanted to do, the basics. We have, let's say, we have talked about functions, about loops. We have talked about conditionals. We have talked about the basic types. Do we still miss anything of the basic things? I don't think so. I don't think so. So I guess we can talk about the next exercise. So let's do one more exercise or two. I think a good exercise now is creating a function that will compute Bhaskara. Create a function that computes Bhaskara. Or computes the roots of a quadratic function using the Bhaskara equation. I don't know if people call it the Bhaskara equation in English, but we do. So the idea is the Bhaskara equation, you have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and the Bhaskara equation is x equals minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that divided by 2a. Okay, so what I want you to do is create a function that will compute, so def Bhaskara abc, and will return root 1 and root 2. Okay, so that's the basic idea. Why did it stop working, the math here? Oh, it worked now. Oh, okay. That's the basic idea. The problem that you will have is you want to compute the square root of a negative number, and what I want you to do is add a keyword argument if the b squared minus 4ac value is negative. Add a keyword argument use complex equals false. Okay, so this use complex equals false argument will be whether you will give an error or just say the complex value. So if use complex is no, so let's if the b blah blah square value is negative, then if use complex is false, then raise an error, and if use complex is true, then return the complex values. And the return the complex values is a bit complicated. That is something called well, I don't know actually how is it called in Python. Python complex values. Oh, I have to import things. Never mind, I don't like this example anymore. So just raise an error. Ignore this keyword argument. And instead, what can I do? Maybe I need another task for keyword arguments. What's a simple example for keyword arguments? Maybe something de factorial. No, maybe something. I'm gonna think about that later, maybe. I of course have not prepared any examples for this, so. Yeah, that's fine. We're gonna eventually touch some more examples. So this is another exercise, a simple one, a bit of conditionals, but yeah, I actually wanted one with a while, but I forgot which one I normally use. Okay, that's fine. Quick break. We take 5 minutes break to get coffee, things like that. And then we come back here for a bit more. Okay? Do you have time to leave, Igor?
All right.
Do you
No,
have
no.
a... No?
No, I don't have.
Great. So quick break. We come back shortly. I don't have my waiting screen here, so maybe I can just let me find a waiting screen. But yeah, it's a quick break. We are on break. I'm just creating a short we'll be right back screen.
All right. When you return, just say hi.
Yeah, I'll do that. Get a coffee or not? Oh, I can do this. Okay. And then I can probably use I have a problem when I try to do things. I want to do them, make them look nice, and then I take a long time doing it. Should be doing my break, but I'm not. Good. And now I can click this, download a JPEG. Good. Well, I wanted. No. No. Great. Now I can take my break.
All right.
Okay, I'm back. Are you back? Maybe not. Making my way down. Oh no. Igor is still getting a big coffee.
Hey,
Alô! E aí, tudo bom?
tudo bom?
Okay, let's go back then. For the second part, I think what I want to do for the second part, not much more. I want to check install VS Code and check a little bit the configuration. So we can talk a bit about files. Let's do that.
Okay, let's do that.
So now we go to VS Code. By far, I think the most popular term IDE, which is editing tool, is PyCharm, but I don't like PyCharm. And I use VS Code for other things, so it's easier to just keep using VS Code. I also like using Vim, but I don't think I will be talking about Vim today, so let's just use VS Code for now. The banana is not for sale, just showing that. We're going to download for Windows, stable build. And thanks for downloading. And what's the downloading in the downloads folder? And I think I have it, so. Yeah, I already have the VS Code. I find it strange that it doesn't automatically understand that I have VS Code. But you want to do all these things, add to pad, register code, etc. Next. And then install. Let's see if it complains. No, it just installs everything. And we launch VS Code. Okay, yeah, it still uses the same thing I had before, which is my old configuration, everything that I had configured already, including this file that I am using, but it pretends that it doesn't know anything. It's strange. So let me do the extensions thing. Let me remove a few things so we can actually discuss them. So black, cat pushing. Jupyter. A bunch of things were disabled when I disabled Jupyter. PyLens, Python. All of these things are already available for me. Yeah, but now I'm gonna reload VS Code. And will look much more darker, I guess. Okay, do you have VS Code open?
Yes.
Okay, when you work with a, so we're gonna take this into steps. So, VS Code is my main tool. So there are a few kinds of programs that you write when you're writing Python code or any code in general. You can write some exploration code that you want to see a bunch of images, or you want to generate a report. And then it makes sense to write a Jupyter notebook. But the Jupyter notebook has those issues that I mentioned. You have to sometimes close everything, reload the kernel, run again. But sometimes you only want to run a script. That's one of the main use cases to use Python in any field, from historians, from geoscientists, from whatever. Using Python scripts is a great thing. And then you just want a file, right? The next step would be packages. We're gonna take a long time until we get to packages because, yeah, packages are complicated in Python, I think. So we're gonna ignore that for a while. So we are with VS Code open, you have it. We are going to open a folder in VS Code. So let's open a folder. I don't have a lot of folders that I could open, so maybe personal projects. I don't know if I have any secret personal projects, so yeah, I don't have anything secret here, so I can leave it here. I'm gonna create a new personal folder, so new folder, rushing Python, not in caps lock. Rushing Python. I don't like using spaces and use only lowercase in my folders, but that's because I'm old. Don't worry about it. Should work normally as well. Here I have Rushing Python. I am in an empty project for our Python stuff. Okay. Now I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this main.py because it doesn't have any name. And now I'm in the most basic stuff from Python. Let's say import math.exponential of 2. And this is already something. It already has a little bit of color in there because VS Code already has something to make our lives a little bit easier, but I want to make our experience better as well. So the first thing is I'm going to install a few packages or enable them, I guess. And one that I like is just for visuals, cat pushing or cappuccino, but with a cat, so it's cat puccino. Enable, and now I have a color. If you enable, you have to set the color scheme and use one of those. Completely unnecessary, but is always nice. If you want to edit this some other time, you're going to use one of the main things in VS Code. If you're using VS Code, you need to know this, which is Ctrl-Shift-P, and it opens this command palette. This is the command palette. You can search for all of the commands that you can call, and you can say, I'm gonna change the color theme, so I can say theme, and look for whatever is available. Color theme, that's what I want. You click there, and then you install a bunch of the other possible themes that you want to use, right? I have a lot of things installed, especially this red one, which is very, very visually impactful, I would say. Kind of aggressive. That's the main thing. It works. The second thing that I want to install so I have this installed, VS Code icons. And if you look at the Python Explorer, the file explorer is here. You will see my icon is this small thing. But you can change your VS Code icons to something more interesting. I don't have anything. And I think it's always useful to change icons. I think maybe there's a cut between icon as well. Cat pp using double C as well. And cat pushing icons, you can install them and they will also look nice. And of course, all of these selections are personal and you can change them as you see fit, but it's good to change them to something a bit more relevant to make your life easier. Now for some actual Python stuff. One good thing to install is, well, there are a few things that are just there. So these Python or these IntelliSense, one of them is really relevant, and I don't remember which one it is anymore. I think maybe you just need, so last update was this month. And this one as well. So I don't know which one I want. I guess I want both of them, which is what I had. So you want to search for Python. The marketplace. The first thing that appears is Python, so just install that. I have it installed, so I just enable. And the other one was Pylance, but I don't remember why I need Pylance exactly. Oh, this Python one already has Pylance, so maybe I don't need it at all.
When I click to install Python, it is installing automatically Pylance.
Okay, so that's why then. So Pylance, yeah, it's it's also automatically enabled. So I guess this one is requiring the Pylance one. So that's why. So never mind anymore. Let's go back to Python. The other thing in Python is you want to make sure that you have some doc strings. So it might be useful to have auto doc string that generates automatically for you. Might be a bit overkill for you right now. There is environment managers. I like the formatter, which is why I had black in the past here, which is a formatter that, well, a formatter will make your code look nicer, but currently might be useful to have rough. And rough is a super new stuff. Like, I think the formatter in rough is from a few days ago, maybe a few weeks ago. So this is nice. And I think, yeah, and now it has format document. So rough is a linter and a formatter we're going to install, and we're going to see it in action. And when it comes to that, I'm going to say, hey, this is rough. And so we're going to just install rough and see what happens, okay? So this is the official plugin from the Astral software. We can go back here, save, and it just works. So a few things. So this is badly formatted. So if I save, automatically formats for me. How, by the way, I should zoom. How does that happen? Now we go to our settings. The settings, if you Ctrl-Shift-P, search for settings, you can open user settings or open settings. And this is also available via Ctrl, but it's easier to just use Ctrl-Shift-P, or you can press here and find the settings here, right? These are all the same thing. And here you search for save, yeah, and then you find format on save. And I enable this, but you can leave it disabled or not, it's your choice. I like it because it makes my life a little bit easier. So if I do this and save, it works, okay? If sometimes you don't want to the formatter to work, but it will work and you should let it work. Let the formatter do its job, okay? Don't think too much about it. There are many different kinds of formatters, so it's a bit of a company selection. Eat your bananas, people. Now I'm here. This is just a file. I could do this on Notepad, doesn't matter. I want to execute this somewhere. The simplest way, I don't even know what this is. I think you can just Shift Enter or Alt Enter, Control Shift Alt Enter. None of those things worked. It's a bit sad. I can play works. Play doesn't work, but it could work. I guess it's looking for Python 3.10. And it did not find Python 3.10. And this is the VS Code version. So let's change to our command prompt, which I guess is the normal one. And let's try again, play. Now we go back to that one. Exit. That's the main thing that I said, like Python is complicated to install packages because you need to make sure that you have everything set up. So we're gonna search for our settings. We're gonna look through Python and we're gonna see if there's anything here. Language server default. I'm just checking for the modifications. So the modifications are the things with a change on the left. PyLens should not make any difference. Text editor, yeah, modified elsewhere, which is fine, which is rough. Path to a Python interpreter to use to run the LSP server. I guess it's a good thing to do. I want to search for one. No, this should not be necessary to run the code. Okay, so let's select everything, Shift Enter. It's not finding this anymore. Let me do a quick check. Okay, we have the deprecated linting settings. You have the deprecated extensions. Recommend to review them and mitigate. Is none of them are related to Python, so it doesn't matter. Linting or formatting settings. Let's see them. Okay. So rough is not officially supported, so maybe that's breaking something. But I don't think it should be the case. Python format. Nope. Text editor. Default format. What? No, this is not what we want. That's trying to format with everything that we have. Well, I guess we're gonna need more extensions then. So one extension that I saw that I had before is the Python notebook. So maybe that one is necessary to do what I want. So here I had Jupyter, so search for Jupyter. And this one, nope, sorry, this one is from Microsoft. I'm gonna enable that. Connection to server got closed. Yeah, I think the Python is not being found anymore. So let's click here. Click here. So by the way, so how does it work? you have a bunch of Pythons installed, so you want to make sure that it's executing the right one. So down here, it's which version of Python is being used. So the old one kind of died, and I don't know what's happening. So we are selecting other ones. So there are other Pythons. So the Python 3.11 base, which is from Anaconda, and we have the Python 3.12, which is the python.exe that we installed earlier today. So we can choose which one of those we want. We're going to use the Anaconda one because why not? They wanted us to use that one. So we're going to do what Anaconda wants. Close this and then play again. Close this, play again. Still the same issue, Conda activate base. It's trying to execute the terminal things on. So it's trying to execute these things on the Linux subsystem. So that's, I guess that's why it's failing. It only has one formatter, which is great. What if I use this one? Does it work? Still fails. Still fails. So what we're gonna try to do is Shift Enter here. Okay, so if I select everything and Shift Enter, then it tries to run with this Python directly, but it's using the Jupyter thing that I mentioned.
Oh, when I select all and hit the Shift Enter, it's run for me. I didn't have installed the Jupyter.
Okay, so possibly one of the other Python that you have installed have it, probably the Anaconda one. So I'm gonna cancel this. I'm gonna change the Python to, let's use the Microsoft Store first to see what happens. Close, Shift Enter. So that one works. So from the Microsoft Store, you have access to this one. Okay, so yeah, that's it. I'm not very happy with this, but yeah, that's configuration that I don't know how to do in Windows. So the most that I don't have to configure, the better. We are running this. That's not what I wanted to do, but we are running it on the notebook. This is a notebook, exactly like the notebook idea. You can run commands here. You have to use Shift Enter. It works, but it's not what I wanted. So we're just gonna assume that it's doing what we like for now. This is a file. This is a normal Python file. And what you normally do when you want to execute a Python file is you will open something. Here is trying to open a WSL. But if you were on the command prompt, we have access to Python from here. Yeah, we have access to Python from here. So you can exit. You call the exit function to exit. It doesn't look nice at all. Maybe it's better to use the PowerShell. Maybe it will work as well if you call just Python from here. Also works. It's a bit more colorful. So let's use the PowerShell instead of the command prompt. And you could just say python main.py, and that should execute the file. Let's print this, save, run, and he executes the file, okay? So this is the idea behind a script. You want to execute Python, you want to execute that script using Python, so it will run everything inside it as a single block of code. And that's what I wanted to do with my play button, but it wasn't working because something happened with my configuration, and I don't know how to handle that. Okay, so we're kind of gonna ignore that for now. Eventually, we move to Linux, I guess. Okay, You can do everything that we did before. You can just define a function here. So let's define a factorial function again. Why not? And this time you see there is 2 spaces here instead of 4. The reason for that is my personal configuration. So I'm going to change it to 4. So indent using spaces, 4 spaces. If I save again, it works. So I'm just going to return n here because we don't actually want. I'm just going to return n here because we don't actually want to compute factorial of anything. Just want to show that it works. So if I execute Python main, it returns 10. Okay, that's the idea of a script. You will write a few functions, maybe one function, maybe no function at all, and you're going to have a bunch of code that you want to execute. So far, so good?
Yeah, so far so good.
Great. So now we're going to open this. We're going to open a file and write some stuff on that file. And to open a file, you can use the with keyword. With open, and then you say what file you're going to open. So like smalltest.txt. Then you have to say how you are opening this file, which is W for write, as F, and colon. Now I'm opening this file and I can say f dot write, I guess, f dot. I was expecting some autocomplete here. Do you have autocomplete if you say math dot?
No, I don't have to. I think we need to install some more extension.
Great. You want to say I don't have either?
Yeah.
Maybe. IntelliSense should be available through Python. So that's the thing. IntelliSense is what does it. And we are using the correct Python version. So why is it not working? Bunch of debug configurations. I don't want to do any of those things. I just wanted to have some IntelliSense. Why is it not available? Python IntelliSense. This is, yeah, so that's one of the reasons that people like PyCharm, is that it's supposed to just work from the start. But it's also one reason to, not use things. So these should automatically work. Should be able to just pick up some stuff. It is a Python language. It is, let's change this one and see if it makes any difference. What if I define a function? Let's say d dot. Yep, I'm gonna have to check the configuration for this eventually. But yeah, what can we do right now? Nothing. That's it. The idea here is that I'm gonna open a file and I want to say write to this file something. So write hello world. That's it. Go down here. So to go down here, to jump down here, I'm using Control and the button on top of my tab, which for me is a tilde, but I'm using the US button. It's normally the single backticks, but backticks, you know. It just moves from the text to the keyboard, to the terminal. Run Python main. Wrote a file called small test, and this is what I wanted. Okay, this is working. This is the only thing that I asked it to write. And this has a bunch of things from Python. It looks very simple, but it's doing a lot of things. The first one is opening the file. So when you say open file, it opens a file, that's it, and has a write mode. This is the same as doing open small test.txt, write. But the idea here is that when you use with, automatically you say, hey, the file is open only inside this block. Because then you have to say f-close if you don't use the with. Okay, so the alternative would be doing this. So, okay?
Okay.
So if I run this now, the file, the small test file, it ran 2 times, both things. If I want to append things, I can do this, and it automatically looks for the end of the file and adds something new. If I want to write more lines, I start to get into the details of how files work, how characters work more specifically, which is the end of the thing. The enter is a \n. Okay? So this \n is common for all, well, most languages at least. That's how you write a enter in the language, okay? Have you had to use this in other languages?
Yeah.
So, okay, so you know it, so you can skip it. So when you write code, you have to make sure that you write in the end line as well. To read this code, so I don't actually need a lot of this, I can do a similar thing. So I can open small test.txt, read as f, and then I can say for line in f.readLines, I guess it is, print line. And let's see if this works. And it works. I'm surprised that it worked. Not a lot surprised, but so for each line, I print the line and it works, okay? This is the file on the right side. So you can say f readLines, reading through all the lines. You can do a bunch of cool stuff here, and one of the things that you're going to do a lot when you are iterating in Python, sometimes you want to enumerate things. So you have line here, but sometimes you also want the line number. So you could, for instance, how do you say is enumerate? I forgot how to do the enumerate. So let's check the browser. So I can go back here. So I can try here how to say enumerate. Is that how you do it? Apparently, yes. So you can just write enumerate. And this enumerate will give you 2 values, which is the line number and the line. And you can print line number. You can print this column, you can print the line, and I press enter, but that's not what we want. And you can just Python man and it runs. Okay. So when you write print separating via a comma, it automatically adds a space, so that's why it looks kind of ugly. But the main idea is that you can do this enumerate thing to get the index of what you're enumerating over. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so what we want to do right now, so a quick bit more complicated example will be doing some log parsing. So this is a more realistic example. gis.github.com. And I get a log. No, this is not what I want. This is not what I want. This is not what I want. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Nice.
Nice, nice. I'm searching for the Xorg log. Yeah, this is nice. Too small though. I want a really large file. Mm. Yeah, let's get this file. So everybody following online, you can get this file here. You can go to this repo and then you can just download the raw file. Is that an easy way to download files with Python? I don't think so. Import
Can
now.
you
Yeah,
send me your?
the link.
Can you send me this link?
I can send you this link. I can actually paste on the chat as well. And I'm gonna send you the link via Discord. Again, as I said, for some reason my autocomplete is not working as expected. It should work, but it isn't. Oh, maybe it's because I don't have rough installed on this. Oh, sorry. Could it be that it's because I don't have rough installed? So let's say I use black. Is this the official one? No. On the black formatter. This appears to be the official one. Enable black. Go back here. I'm gonna Ctrl-Shift-P, format document with black. It's exactly the same. I was hoping that maybe the interpreter got tricked into doing my work. Math dot, no use. Okay, never mind. Let's go back to the recommended Microsoft Store. Oh, so by the way, I mentioned that Ruff would complain when we did things. So you see these squiggly lines here? This is what a linter does, one of the things that it does, which is saying, hey, you imported math, but you're not using it. This is Ruff telling us you're doing something which could be improved a little bit. So it's not checking just the formatting, it's checking that we are doing some proper cleanup or writing things in a better way, trying to avoid common mistakes. And that's why it's useful to have it. So we are not using math for anything. We might use download for something. So what I'm actually going to test this download of this URL. And since I need a bit of code completion, there is no download, import download. Do I have to use URL request? Python download file. I have to use requests if I'm not mistaken. And apparently, yes. This is from 2008. Yeah, somebody says use URL lib.request. So let's see if this works. Yes, apparently it works. Then you say read URL lib.request.url open the name of the URL, which is what we have here, as f. You say this is the HTML. No, I don't want the HTML. Interesting. It's not a great idea either, but you say import request. This works? No, because now I need a package. So let's say, how would I do this on normal usage? I would take WSL, which is a Linux, and I would say wget the file, and then I have the file. That's how I normally would do this thing, which I think is that's the best way to do it. Okay, so just wget this URL, so you have the URL on your thing. Do you have the WSL working already? Also, you can just download it directly from the internet. But anyway, I have a thing, so I don't do that. So what I want to do is I want to go over this log here. So this is a log of something called xorg, which is a Linux thing. Just to showcase what you would work, for instance, if you're working on production and things are running on production, and then you have some error and you have to investigate that error. This is just xorg, so it's not any production file. This is what makes the visuals on Linux, okay? And this, I think, is a 15 years old, no, 10 years old file from 2011. So it's really, really not recent, but most of it is pretty much the same. And it shows a bunch of things that happen when you press the button or the command to run the to start a screen. And the idea here being it has some header, and it has a bunch of things which are timestamps saying at which time this happened, and it has some information on what kind of things happen. So if there is a dash dash, it's probed, which I don't even know what that means. Something from a configuration file, a default setting, and the things that we actually care about are these three, which is an informational thing, a warning, or an error, right? So this is what we have. And the exercise that we want to do is to go over this and find all errors. We're going to look for all errors in this file. So let's open that file. And then we're gonna do some stuff. So this is the thing. We're not gonna enumerate anything. We're just gonna read the file. And let's just print the file. Again, I should not have pressed Shift Enter. I want to run it down here on PowerShell. And this is what we have, okay? Maybe it makes sense to keep running this all time with Shift Enter. Yeah, so it looks a bit nicer for people at home. Okay, so this is our file, and this is each line of the file, okay? Now let's do a quick check. So the first thing that we can do, for instance, is check what's in the line. So if, I think you can just say EE inline, and this should work. Yeah, so a quick way to check if there is an error in the line, you just check for the string that you're looking for. Okay, make sense?
Okay, just wait a moment.
Yeah.
Woo! For lining, let me take that off. And this off. Line. If.
By the way, let me fix the VS Code stuff. Has been broken forever, I guess. Let me know when you're done.
All right.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, working.
So this is the basic idea. So this just looked through all the lines in the file and found these 5 lines, actually these 6 lines that have what we need. Another thing is that this line has this in the beginning, so we want to exclude this line because we only want the actual log information. So a simple way to avoid those is to check if not brackets in line, okay? So if, continue. So if there is no bracket in line, and I guess we might have to do this. So, okay, so by the way, this is Ruff helping us. Ruff is saying test for membership should be not in. So we can just say for not in line. So if the square bracket is not in the line, we continue. We skip this line, which is a configuration line we don't want. And then we just go over to this line here. We actually want to check if the line starts with brackets, right? So we are not going to do that right now, but this is a to-do for eventually we're going to check that thing. So if you run again, Shift Enter on all this, it shows only those 5 lines. So what we want to do is we want to get this timestamp information and this message, and we want to write down when these things happen. So instead of doing this, since I only want these EE lines, I'm also going to do the opposite and say continue. So reasons to and just to clarify, because I know for new people this might be confusing, continue does not mean continue in this line. It means leave this, go back to the for, and continue to the next element of the for. Okay, so this is a strange nomenclature for this thing. We are continuing. We are leaving that. So if we are inside this, so at this point of the code, we are in an error line of the form. I'm going to create a manual break of the form timestamp EE error message. Okay, so we can check for these things. So the simplest way here, and this is going to be the first way to do this, is we're going to split this line. So we're going to do the separated line is line.split, and I'm going to print the separated line so you can see how it looks like. Line separated line is line.split. Oh, I have to select everything and Shift Enter. And you can see here that it creates a vector, list of all of the parts of the line. So open brackets, timestamp with the close brackets, all error, and then all of the words for the error message. Okay. So what we could do here is, well, we don't want the first one. The timestamp is only this part, and we're going to access this part. So this is the timestamp, is the separated line. The lack of completion is making me angry. You don't have completion either, right, Igor?
No, I don't have either.
So Python VS Code completion. Let's see what's suggesting. IntelliCode. Okay, I thought I had the IntelliCode. And I think I just broke my whole computer. No, I don't have. This is AI assisted development. That's not what I want. Are you doing? Are you doing some? Let's see what it does. I don't like that it's gonna use a lot of my memory. Separate. It doesn't autocomplete. What am I doing wrong? So let me check something called language server. Let's start language server.
We are
Client is not.
using
Hmm?
Pylons.
I should be using Pylons. Install Pylons.
Yeah, yeah, it's down with the Python.
There's also the Python development extension, which comes with everything that you need for Python. I mean, Django is in there. Indent Raybone is there. Oh my god, so many things. Yeah, although it's not from Microsoft, it's just from some random thing online. So I think my configuration is broken. Our Python stuff was not be properly configured, and I don't know why. Because VS Code is not helping me figure out why it's broken. I think it's because of this thing. This is the bad one. If I do this, change to Anaconda, reload window, auto import completions, which one? Type checking I don't need to see. Okay, now it works. So I don't know who is doing this, by the way, but it's working. Apparently changing to Anaconda works. Can you check that,
I
Igor?
I close and open up
Yeah.
and it starts working too.
Yep. Common Windows experience, just restart and it works. Or sometimes it doesn't work, but yeah. Not fun. My stream should still working because everything closed from my end. I hope it's still working. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I like to go with like have this one-on-one with you because it breaks much easier than expected. Okay, so separated line, going back, separated line auto-completes now. And I want to select element 1. So now I'm also going to do one other thing. F5. This is debugging. F8. F8 is here. I don't like it. So the other test that I wanted to make was select Control Enter. Alt Enter. Play. Is it play? Well, it's still not working. The play still doesn't work. So we go back. Select, Shift Enter. And now it works. It looks nice.
How you make this interactive main appear?
You mean this here? I
Yeah,
select everything and I press Shift Enter.
mine is just appearing in the terminal. But okay.
Um, I think you. No, that's not okay. Let's install. I think you need to install the Jupyter. Do you have Jupyter?
No, installing.
Okay. Let me know if it works. When it works.
Oh, it's still appearing in the terminal. Let me
Maybe.
close and open again.
Yep. Yeah, when you open, check if anything appears, any message, any error.
No.
If it still doesn't work, you select everything, Control A, Shift Enter.
Yeah. Still not appearing this new window. Let me see the extension. It's okay.
Do I have anything else?
Jupyter.
Let's see, key maps. No, that's not what I want. I want to search.
I don't have the key map. Oh no,
Um,
it's here. It's here.
okay, so no,
Jupyter.
keyboard shortcuts. Shift Enter. Jupyter. Yeah, it's part of Jupyter key map. There's also yeah, it's always Jupyter or Jupyter key map. So let's see the Jupyter extensions. Jupyter settings, I mean.
It is installing something here. I
Oh,
search in the Control Shift P
yeah.
for key map. Key map no, Jupyter, and there has a interactive.
Okay, yeah, because there is a create interactive window here.
Yeah. Let me see. It is working. No. The window is open at the side, but is not
Not running when you
with.
shift enter.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have these on top here? Base or something like that?
Yeah.
What's the name?
It's Python 3.12 here.
Click on that.
Yep.
Do you have Anaconda? Like this one?
No, just the 3.12.
Okay, so I don't have Anaconda installed there. Anaconda available. You might need to restart the computer to have Anaconda available. Can you try select another kernel? Do you have down here? Down here is 312. Do you have here Anaconda?
No, there is 3.12 too. If I click, there is Anaconda.
Okay, so click on
Let me
Anaconda down there.
change there.
Good.
Okay.
Now try Shift Enter, Control Control A, Shift Enter.
No.
Mm.
The interactive window continues on 3.12 and let
Yeah,
me
the
see if
interactive windows you're gonna have to close and open a new one. And close that, Ctrl A, Shift Enter.
no, don't work. Doesn't work.
And well, try opening
Uh-huh.
an interactive window again.
Yeah, interactive window. Now is
Uh,
with the other Python. It is connecting to the kernel base. Okay. Not yet.
the Shift Enter doesn't work.
No, just appear in the terminal.
Okay, do Ctrl Shift P and then search for keyboard and then preferences, open keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah.
Now look for Shift plus Enter.
Shift plus enter.
Okay. So do you have the Jupyter things here?
Yeah. Let me
Uh,
see. Anything with the notebook cell and select below.
yeah, because I think the one that you want to have is interactive.execute, maybe,
Yeah, it's here.
with Shift Enter. Do you
Yeah,
have anything else that is not System, Jupyter, and Jupyter Notebook? Probably a Python one,
have a Python one.
which is run selection line in Python terminal, which is exactly the thing
Yeah,
I wanted to run this one, but you don't have this. You have the other one, and this one is conflicting with the other one. So mine is working. So let's search for execute in the settings. I have this. So search for your settings for execute.
yeah. And Jupyter.
Yeah, Jupyter 4. I have this one here.
Yeah. Now it's
So,
checked.
so that's the difference. That's what was happening, and now it should be fine. And by the way, this is what I wanted to not have, but it was not working. But that's fine. That's some other thing to worry about. Yours were working, so that's fine. So now, Ctrl A, Shift Enter.
Yeah, now it's working.
Okay,
Easy.
so easy. So now what I want to do is like I want to print the timestamp just so we see what we are doing here. Timestamp. Shift Enter. And this is the timestamp. Okay. Say okay to me.
Shut. Okay.
Right. So this is the timestamp that we have. This string here. 81.064 close brackets. So one thing about strings is that strings are like lists. So if you access as 0, this will access element 0 of string 81 blah blah blah. No survey. And then you can say as 5 or 4, and this will get element 6. And then you can say as -1, and -1 goes back 1 and shows you the last one. Okay, so this is indexing. You can do slices, so you can say 2 column 4, and this will take elements 2 and 3 again, like the ranges. Starts at 2 and ends at 4 minus 1. Okay.
Okay.
So what we want to do is we want to start at 8 and end at the last one. We don't want the last one, we want to end one before. So we can say s, start at 0, and go up to the -1, which does not make sense mathematically, but it's understandable from the Python point of view. This is very common in Python, is saying I don't want the last character. Okay?
Okay.
And this also works for more than one character. If you say s minus 3, this will remove 3 characters. Cool?
All right.
Nice. So what we want to do is we want to say timestamp is equals timestamp 0 to the -1. And now we only have the timestamp string here. And if I execute everything, it will show just the timestamp. Cool?
Cool.
And now
Fine.
working fine. And now the last thing is we want all of these other messages, but the thing is they are all separated by because they had a bunch of different numbers of spaces. So what we want to do is aggregate all of that again. We have 2 ways of doing that. The first one is because the line was separated, let me print just an empty space with a bunch of lines here. Because the lines were separated, like they are always using the same structure, you can actually access this in a better way, which is you just go directly to this position. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., 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 and then you get this one up to the end. Okay? The other way to do that is you take all of these elements and you aggregate them again. You split them, but now you aggregate them. So now I'm gonna do this that way because we are using the split version here. So I'm gonna get the error message, and the error message is going to be all of the elements of the separated line, except for the first, the second, and the third element. So, oops, sorry. The first is just the brackets, the second is the timestamp, and the third one is the EE. So it's 0, 1, 2, so we start at 3, and we go all the way to the end. And to go to the end, you just say column, and you don't put an end in there. So it takes everything. Okay?
Okay.
So this is to the end, but we want to join them. So you're gonna say, you have to say dot join. But that's the thing with dot join. Dot join, you say use the space to join a list of things. The list of things needs to be strings. So like this. So with a space, join these things. Looks terrible, but it works. And now you can print the error message. Shift enter, and now we have all we need: timestamp, error message. Okay?
Okay.
So this is the idea. All of these just so we can get to the point of printing the error message. So we want to say print at time. I want to say a f string at time stamp error message. So this is by the way, I don't know if I said this. This is called string interpolation. So a string is the inside the thing, the quotes, and this is the interpolation part. We are interpolating with values, with the timestamp and the error message values. So we don't need to print this anymore. This is the first solution. Cool?
Cool. Working fine.
Okay, so this is a more common situation. So like if you're working on a server and you have like a bunch of error messages going through, you can create a script that will read the error messages. And if they are what you want, here we're just checking all error messages. but you could search for something specific, like if ETPS, right? If ETPS is in the name, that's something that I want to check, so I can print them to some specific place. In this case, just printing to the screen. This is one way to do it. Another way to do it, so using split and join. Another way to do it is, because these lines are, I'm gonna put it first because I think it's a bad way, but works for this, but in general doesn't work. Using absolute position, which will be, well, the timestamp always happens between lines, between characters 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So up to 11. And the error message always happens between, so this is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 to the end. And then we can just print again the error message. Right? The spaces are bad, so we can use a dot chomp. It's not chomp, it's a strip. Chomp is probably from Julia. You can use the strip to remove the spaces from the beginning and the end. So it works exactly how we had, except that the line ending also included here, the \n, but that's fine. I think you can use dot strip to remove that as well, I guess. Yeah. So you can always dot strip the lines so they don't have the ending anymore, or the spaces. Okay?
Okay.
So solution 1 and solution 2. And there is also solution 3 using regular expressions, but it's overkill. For this situation, it's overkill to use regular expressions. Regular expressions would check that this is in a specific format, and it checks the format of the string instead of positions. Right? But it's much more complicated to use, so we're not going to use it at all right now. And it's much harder than the basics of Python, so we don't want to say anything about that. Cool?
Okay.
Nice. So what I want you to do as your exercise, and this is the last thing for today, exercise, is read a folder of log files like this one, aggregate all error messages with EE, order by timestamp, write to a new file. This is a decent thing. The other ones were like just toy problems, but this is a more real problem, a more real situation. First one, you're going to read a folder of log files. All log files are like this one, so you can just copy paste same file, doesn't matter. But it's probably a good idea if you find more files like this one. So I have a few. You can probably look for shark.8.log. Yeah, you can search for them here. Search here. For instance, this is a place that has a bunch of files, so you can find a few files. Make sure that open the file, make sure that it's following the same format. Don't assume that they are. But you have to read all of them. So the first question that I have not answered is how to read all files in a folder, right? You know how to read one file, but you have to read all files in a folder. The second one is you want to keep all messages in memory. And the third one is to sort the messages, and then you write. These are not trivial things, so it involves searching for a little bit. If you search them, the first one is pretty easy to find online. The third one, kinda, a little bit. But the second one is where things will be a bit harder. Because here I am just reading the things and then I print them. Right? So you want to do one intermediary step here, which is to store those things. And so I'm going to teach you a little bit how to store things so that you can come up later with how you're going to store things. So let's say you have a list and the list can be empty. This is an empty list. Okay? So let's say you want to add something to this list. You can say l.append. And then you say what you want to add to this list, which can be a string. So if you look at L, it now has a bell. It can be a number. It can be another list even. So 2, 3. And it can be a tuple. So 9, 8. Right? So that's it. L.append. So keep all messages in memory, probably using append. How you're going to store them, that's part of your exercise. And sorting them, sorting is pretty easy. So if you have L, you can say L.sort. But the thing is, the things inside the sort have to be comparable. So if I have L equals 2, well, let's numbers 2, 4, and I say L.sort, it's sorting it. You can also say sorted L and will return the values. If I say L is Abel, Igor, Daniel, and I say sorted L, it will return the value sorted. Because if I compare two strings, it works, it looks by position, and it changes things properly, right? But if I use numbers and strings together, it doesn't work. And just a tip, you can use a bunch of things, different things to organize this, but you can, for instance, use either a new value like 10 and error, like a new list inside the list. You can do this. And you can sort this, because when you sort this thing compared to this one, it works. You can also use a tuple, and it also works. So you could do something like this, right? But the details will need to be, you will need to check it out. Cool.
Okay.
That's a cool exercise for you. This one I did think beforehand, so yeah, let me know how it goes. It's also a quick exercise for everybody at home. I think 3 hours or almost 3 hours of video is enough of class. We have most of the basics. We know how to use loops. We know functions. We know opening files, writing to files. We know interpolation, printing. We know how to use Jupyter, how to use VS Code. We are almost masters of Python. Yeah. Almost. Great. So that's it. Message for my viewers. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you like, please like and subscribe and leave us a message so we know that we should keep doing videos like this. Otherwise, we won't be doing videos like this in the future. And thank you and bye-bye.